Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes and welcome to Volume 2 in our series on introducing the cycle of fifths for the alto and baritone saxophones. I'm going to assume that you are on top of all of the theory and practical work that we covered in Volume 1. You'll recall at the end of that series we got up to the key of A major, the key that has 3 sharps in it, and we covered C, G, D and A major in Volume 1. So today we have to start on the next key, which is the key that is the 5th note of the preceding key. So A major, if you recall, was A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. The 5th note out of that scale would be A, B, C sharp, D, E. E's the 5th note of an A scale. So E major is the next key as we progress around the cycle of fifths. Now A major had 3 sharps in it, F sharp, C sharp and G sharp. So E major retains those same 3 sharps, but it adds a 4th sharp, and that sharp has to be the note 1 semitone below the last note in the scale, which of course would be E. A semitone below E is D sharp. So there's our 4 sharps in the key of E major. Now, I'm a great believer if you can say it, you can play it. And the test is to put your metronome on at 70 beats a minute, like I've got there now, and try and say as crotchets, that's 1 note per click on the metronome, the notes of an E major scale ascending and descending, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. D sharp, C sharp, B, A, G sharp, F sharp, E. How did you go? That should be really easy for you once you get your mind around what the actual notes are in that scale that you're going to have to play on your sax. Now, I also recommend doing the same thing, but moving your fingers as you say those notes without blowing the saxophone, like this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. E, F sharp, G sharp, A. B, C sharp, D sharp, E. D sharp, C sharp, B, A, G sharp, F sharp, E. Now, as per Tutorial 1, the challenge is to try and play that E major scale as quavers at 70 beats per minute. So let's do it in the low octave as half beat notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and... Okay, we move on to the next key in the cycle, which has to be the 5th note of an E major scale. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. B's the 5th note in an E scale, therefore it must be the next key around the cycle. And it also must be the key that has 5 sharps in it. The 4 sharps from E major, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp and D sharp, plus the note that is 1 semitone below B. So again, we put our metronome on, 70 beats a minute, and we try and say what we want to play. We want to say out aloud the notes of a B major scale, ascending and descending. 2, 3, 4. B, C sharp, D sharp, E. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E. D sharp, C sharp, B. The reason I suggest you only say them as crotchets is because you, in that example, are saying 2 words per beat. C sharp. Much quicker than 70 beats a minute, it becomes a tongue twister. However, on our instrument, we're not saying anything, we're moving our fingers, and to play, in essence, at 140 beats a minute is not a problem. When we're playing quavers, half beat notes at 70 beats a minute, we're actually wiggling our fingers on the saxophone at the speed of 140 beats a minute. Now, A sharp, I recommend you use the conventional A sharp fingering, A plus the bottom right hand trill key. So let's play the B major scale as quavers at 70 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we move on to the next key around the cycle. This will be the key that has 6 sharps in it, and therefore it has to be the note that starts as the 5th note in a B major scale. So B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp. F sharp is the key, F sharp major is the key that has 6 sharps. The 5 sharps from the key of B, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp and A sharp, plus the new sharp which has to be a semitone lower than F sharp. Now remember, it has to be called a sharp. So what do you think the correct name of the note that is a semitone below F sharp will be in this key? Did you work it out? It's actually going to be called E sharp. Now E sharp is played the same way as F. It's an enharmonic term. In music theory it just means 2 different names for the same pitch. So the physical note F, the fingering for F, is exactly the same as the fingering we need to play when the music is telling us that it's the note E sharp. Now again in this key we can play right up to top F sharp if your saxophone has a high F sharp key on it, but quite a few saxophones don't, so I recommend for the purpose of this tutorial that you just practice the F sharp major scale initially in the low octave. Let's give it a go. So quavers, half beat notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now again, if you're having trouble playing that, don't forget to do the exercise of if you can say it, you can play it. So if you struggled with that, it might just be that you really haven't got your mind around what those notes are. In the key of F sharp major, every note except B is a sharp. So instead of having to remember F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, an alternate way, and it's certainly something that I teach my students, is just think of the notes that aren't a sharp. And in that case, it's the one note, B. So if we had to say that at 70 beats a minute, it would be F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, E sharp, D sharp, C sharp, B, A sharp, G sharp, F sharp. Put some time into that and do think of that. For me, the keys B, F sharp and the final key, which will be C sharp, those that have 5, 6 and 7 sharps in it, it's often easier just to focus on the notes that are not a sharp. So I just gave you the answer to the next key, but just to prove that I'm right, it'll be the 5th note of the F sharp scale. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp. C sharp is the key where every note in the scale is a sharp. The rules of music are very clear cut. If you remember, we started in the key of C major at the midnight position on the analog clock face, and those notes had no sharps or flats in them at all. We've now come around the cycle right down to 7 o'clock down at the bottom of the clock face, and here we've got every single note is now a sharp. But once you get used to playing your scales on the saxophone in all keys, it's no more intimidating to play in the key of C sharp major than it is to play in the key of C. Here's the key of C. And here's the equivalent in C sharp. It should feel the same. It's the same tune. So whether you're playing a little melody in the key of C or in C sharp, the whole idea of practicing your scales is so that your fingers feel comfortable no matter where your mind wants to go in music. Okay, so let's just look at the fingerings for the key of C sharp major on the saxophone. There's two important little spots to talk about, and that's around the note A sharp and the note B sharp. Now, in the keys of B and F sharp major, the keys that we've just covered that had 5 sharps and 6 sharps in them, you'll recall that I recommended that you just use the normal A sharp fingering. Play A on your left hand and the bottom right hand side key or trill key to turn A into A sharp. The reason I recommend that is in both of those keys, A sharp is followed by the note B, B natural. And that's the best fingering on the saxophone, where you're confronted by A sharp and B either going up or down. C sharp major, however, says, well, it's not B anymore that follows A sharp because every note's a sharp. So A sharp must be followed by B sharp. Now, B sharp's just a fancy name, the enharmonic equivalent name for normal old C. So I'm strongly recommending in the key of C sharp major that you use the one finger to play A sharp. That's covering the normal B key and the little bis key below it. Your index finger over that, that's your A sharp. And B sharp, even though it's a different name than you might be used to, is just the same as C. Now remember, if you can say it, you can play it. So say the notes in a C sharp major scale with me now at 70 beats a minute. 3, 4. C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp, B sharp, A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E sharp, D sharp, C sharp. That's a real mouthful. There's no real chance there to take a comfortable breath. That's because you're saying every note now as 2 notes per beat. We're going to play the C sharp major scale now as 2 notes per beat, as quavers at 70 beats a minute. 2, 3, 4. I hope you've stuck with me through to the end of this session, through to the key of C sharp major. If you can now play all of the scales that we've covered in Volume 1 and Volume 2, congratulations. If you're playing those scales comfortably, if you can say them out aloud and play them as quavers, as half-beat notes at 70 beats a minute, you've come a long way on your saxophone and in your understanding of fundamental music theory. These tutorials have taken you through every one of the possible major keys that have sharps in them. I'm going to finish this session off with a play-along track for you, the same as I did in Volume 1. The band on this occasion will focus on the keys we've covered in Volume 2. So the band will play 2 bars on the keys that have 4 sharps, 5 sharps, 6 sharps and 7 sharps. E, B, F sharp and C sharp. And your job is to see if you can play non-stop with that backing band those scales as crotchets and quavers. Play around with the speed. You can try them as semi-quavers if you want to. It's up to you. I really hope you've enjoyed this session. Keep your eye out for Volume 3, which will round off the cycle and we'll get from 8 p.m. back up to midnight and complete the cycle of fifths for the alto and baritone saxophones. Bye for now.